Alright, in a previous video we talked about one-step equations. In this video we're going to talk about how to solve two-step equations. So first of all, let's look at a problem. 2x minus 7 equals 9. Now, when you look at this problem, there's a reason why we call it a two-step equation. First of all, notice in order to get rid of this 2, since we have 2 times x, we're going to have to divide by 2. Remember, our goal is to get x by itself. So to get rid of that 2, which is multiplied times x, we divide by 2. Now the other number we got to get rid of is the 7. So since it's minus 7, the opposite of subtracting 7 is adding 7. So we use this idea of opposites. So the question is, what do we do first? Do we divide the left side by 2, or each side by 2, or do we add 7 on each side first? Well, notice if I divided the left side by 2, I have to divide the whole side by 2. And of course, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So that makes things look more complicated. Let's try dealing with the 7 first. So what if we add 7 to both sides? So when we do that, we're going to end up with 2x equals 16, because notice the 7's here cancel, because a minus 7 and a plus 7 is 0. So now we're left with 2 times x equals 16. Well, we need to divide now, since the opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. And so now we're going to get 1x, or just x, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. Now the other thing I would point out to, first of all, we say that x equals 8 is the solution, which means if we plug it into the equation, it should make the equation true. So if I put an 8 here, 2 times 8 is 16, and 16 minus 9, or minus 7 is 9, and so that does check. Let's go on to another problem here. Let's go ahead and do that. So here again, you can see on the right side, this time we're trying to get x by itself. We're going to have to get rid of that 3 and also the 5. So just like we did last time when we added 7 to both sides, in this case we're going to want to subtract 5 on both sides first. We'll also divide by 3, but we'll do that last. So basically, the guiding principle is that we always want to, with two-step equations, either add or subtract on both sides first, and then divide or multiply. In this case, we're going to be dividing. So let's see, let's get rid of that 5 by subtracting 5 on both sides. We get negative 9 is equal to 3x. Oops, let's make that blue. And why aren't you working? There we go. So we're going to get negative 9 equals 3x. And of course, if we're trying to get x by itself, we got to get rid of that 3, and we can do that by dividing by 3, because the opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. Negative 9 divided by 3 is going to give us negative 3. And of course, 3 divided by 3 gives us 1, or just 1x, or just x. And so here our solution is negative 3. On number 1 it was 8. And again, the guiding principle that you need to use here is with two-step equations, we always want to add or subtract on each side first, and then multiply or divide. Alright, let's move on and do a couple more examples. So this problem is also a two-step equation. Notice that we have division by 4 here. So to reverse division by 4, we're going to have to multiply each side by 4. But we also need to get rid of this minus 3. So we just talked about how with two-step equations, we're going to always want to add or subtract first. So let's add 3 to both sides, and we'll get rid of the 3. And so we'll be left with x over 4 is equal to 12. Here, to get rid of that 4, notice it's x divided by 4. So the opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So if we multiply each side by 4, so notice here you get 4x over 4, which is just going to end up being x. On the other side you get 48. So here x is equal to 48. Let's do another problem. Notice it really doesn't matter which side x is on. X is on the right this time, so let's try to keep x on the right. In the end, it really doesn't matter. We can always change the order that we write our answer. So here we're going to want to subtract 2 first. Again, we always want to add or subtract first, and since we have a plus 2 here, we're going to want to subtract 2 on each side. So we are going to get negative 3 is equal to x over 8. So notice on the right side, we got to get rid of that 8 because we're trying to get x by itself. So we're going to need to multiply each side by 8. The opposite of dividing by 8 is multiplying by 8. So we are going to end up with negative 24 is equal to, by the way, we could just cancel these, but 8x over 8, either way we get 1x or just x. So here the answer is x equals negative 24. So let's move on and do another example. Actually, I'd like you to do these 2 problems, and then when you've completed them, see if you can, or check your answer and see how you did. The other thing I would remind you is that once you get your answer, it's very easy to check your answers with these. Alright, well, good luck, and I'll put the answers up here in just a second. Alright, so on number 5, you should have first subtracted 7 on both sides. So these will add up to 0. You're left with negative 3x equals negative 3. You can certainly see how important it is that you can work with integers on these. I hope you're able to do that without a calculator. Here we're going to have to do the opposite of multiplication by negative 3. That means we're dividing by negative 3. And so we are going to get x is equal to 1. How'd you do on that one? Let's see, negative 3 times 1 plus 7 should equal 4. Well, that's negative 3, and negative 3 plus 7 does equal 4, so that does work. Let's go over to the other side, and we're going to want to add 6 to both sides first. We get x over 2 is equal to 3, and since we're trying to get that x by itself, we need to get rid of that 2, so we need to reverse division by 2, which means we've got to multiply by 2. So let's multiply each side by 2. We get 2x over 2, or you just cancel the 2's there, you're left with x. On the other side we get 6. That is your answer, and again, if you plug it in, it does check. And that is the end.